Welcome everyone to That Kind of Nerds podcast, a show where we break down what is going on in the nerdy world. I am CJ Mellon, joined of course by Josh Burns and Brian Thornton. So before we dive into what's going on this week, I do want to take a moment to talk a little bit about some follow-up from last week. And Josh, this comes to a comment that you said. Josh, Verizon, they pinky promise that the Google Pixel will get updates immediately, just like how they do with the iPhone.
Oh my God, a pinky promise?
And CJ, I do believe that the updates will be immediate. I do not believe that they will continue the update schedule beyond 12 months is my initial guess, but I'm going to say 18 to be safe. I don't think if you're the kind of person that wants to keep their device for an extended period of time, they will continue to update it faithfully.
But they're like super ethereal.
But Josh,
No, I know. They're super for serious and pinky promising. Brian?
Josh, I've been told that you can't break a pinky promise.
Well, I wish you would tell my wife that. She's broken every pinky promise she's ever made. She is the reason I will not let my children pinky promise with their mother. It's her fault.
So do not pinky promise with Laura.
Do not.
Got it.
She will break it without
So,
even
hold on, wait,
the same minute that she made it, she will break it.
Does she do that whole pinky promise, but she's crossing her fingers behind her back?
To draw a parallel, her pinky promises are as good as my hard passes, right?
Oh wow, she's gonna take exception to this whole conversation because if she is in any way on the same level of your hard passes, she will go into a downward spiral of self-loathing.
But I have broken one hard pass, and she has broken every pinky promise. Scoreboard
she really
jerk.
has.
Scoreboard.
She makes it a point to break a pinky swear. I don't understand why.
Laura, I will pinky promise you whenever, wherever. Just let me know. I got you. I have a serious question for the phone nerds in the group.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When Verizon pinky promises, is Jamie Foxx going door to door and pinky promising all of them?
But I'm Jamie Foxx for Sprint. I don't understand.
But Sprint didn't pinky promise, CJ. It was Verizon. The real Jamie Foxx, Ray Charles
mobile
himself, will pinky
carrier
promise you.
commercials have gotten so ridiculous that I can't even with the commercials. With the old Verizon guy being the Sprint guy now and the Jamie Foxx thing, I can't even. That's my only answer to the crazy mobile commercial. I don't get it.
So I did find a piece of news, though, that will make Josh very excited. Dare I even say I may get a squee. J.K. Rowling was talking during a Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them fan event and said that there will be 5 Fantastic Beast films.
Squee.
I've got something to say to J.K. Rowling. There's a fantastic beast, and he's on my computer right now. Mr. Josh Burns right there. You are magnificent, sir.
I actually
That is all I have to say about Harry Potter. Continue.
When CJ first mentioned it, my Fantastic Beast hit the underside of my desk at a.
Whoa!
Yeah.
You broke Brian.
That's what happened.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So you're basically going to give me another 5 Harry Potter movies.
Yeah, she made it clear that they're not necessarily 5 Fantastic Beast films, but
Whatever,
that there will
man.
be
They're 5
additional
Harry
films.
Potter movies. As far as I care, they're Harry Potter movies. Just Harry Potter. Just give me
Just
5
more, just at least more of that,
It's
please.
just Harry Potter.
Brian, and you had a question earlier. I don't think she's going to be writing 5 different books for it. I think there's just going to be 5 films based off of it.
Oh, that's just lazy.
That's the world we live in.
Lazy on purpose.
Her and George R.R. Martin are just sipping martinis while studios are
They
doing their
really
work.
are. They're like, maybe we'll finish this last book. Maybe we will. Maybe we will.
She's like, I'll wait for them to write the scripts and make the movies, and they'll just write the books based off of that, just like George R.R. Martin's doing
No,
right
she'll
now.
do what she did with The Cursed Child and just take the screenplays and publish them. Hashtag J.K. Rowling write a new book.
So, continuing on with things that Josh should probably talk about some more.
Hashtag Josh's Fantastic Beast.
Josh, this is something I think is right up your alley, and I'm very curious to hear your take on it. We're going to talk a little bit of sports for a second.
Sports. Why'd you go?
I was going to say, did you see how I went to my sports voice?
Why?
I love
why'd
sports.
you go-
We're gonna talk
why'd you
about
go
sports for a moment.
We like sports and we don't care who knows.
So we're going to talk about sports for a
I
second.
hope they score another goal unit basket.
The NFL is banning teams from sharing GIFs and videos of their own teams during the games that are currently on the television.
I'm assuming that you're talking about clips, videos, memes, and whatnot from a game that is happening real time.
Correct, yes.
Okay. Then in that case, I am entirely behind the NFL because you can't rebroadcast any of their original content without express written consent, not implied oral consent or any other kind of consent. You can't rebroadcast a lot. And to this degree, if you have an app like NFL Mobile, right, and you pay for a subscription like Sunday Ticket, if you plugged in your iPhone or your iPad or whatever device you use, you can't stream that to your television. You can't AirPlay it on devices you own, and it's because of these copyright laws. And I'm completely behind the NFL saying no one can rebroadcast our content real time. It's fine.
What about the fact that the games, certain games now are even live streamed on Twitter? Like they're actually giving that out to free to the masses. Why is making a GIF of Antonio Brown's celebration during the game?
I'd be willing to bet that the game that was live, and by the way, it's only Thursday night football.
Right.
That is live stream on Twitter. So I'd be willing to bet that any meme, GIF, video, Snapchat, Vine, whatever you create from Thursday night, I'd be willing to bet they're okay with because it's broadcast on Twitter.
So let me be clear. The NFL is putting this policy not on the fans, although they will, but their main point right now is the actual teams. So they'll fine the team, the organization, $25,000 for the first offense.
They should.
$50,000 for the second and $100,000 for the third.
Let me get this straight.
Yeah.
So if Josh scores that sweet touchback goal unit thing, and I'm on the sidelines because I'm prepping his water, and I shoot it with my phone, I can't then share it with him via social medias.
No. So Antonio Brown.
But Josh made an awesome play,
Yes.
and I had his water ready. I wanted to make sure he knew his water
You're
was
the
ready.
water boy, right? So that doesn't count. You are the owner.
But I'm a part of the team. The water boy is very integral to the team.
The official profile of official organization, the team cannot post something on it. I just thought it was fascinating. I mean, it's their own players, their own team on their own account, and they can't do it while they're on the.
CJ, you're missing the most fascinating part of the NFL, and that is that it is such a self-contained entity that it can't look. None of it can be reproduced. Radio stations, television stations can't say the words Super Bowl
Right.
without having the NFL present.
It's crazy talk.
I
this is the way it is. I just think
this
it's crazy.
is a brand.
Josh, you just said it.
Oh God, we're screwed.
Is someone from the NFL with you?
This is a
The
brand.
big game. You mean
This
the
is
big
a
game.
brand.
So I have a few choice words for the NFL. I'm just saying.
Look, Brian, if it becomes a problem, I'll introduce them to my fantastic beast.
That'll smooth things over.
That'll smooth things right over. So I'm fine with the NFL licensing its product. I'm fine with them fining anyone who goes outside the confines of their contract. I'm okay with all of that because I really like the way the NFL handles its broadcasts. It's consistently the best sports broadcast in the world. I've never watched one better or more readily available or available in
Readily available if you're willing to pay for it.
No, you don't have to pay for NFL coverage, CJ. It's everywhere.
Okay, all right, touche. If you want to watch the game, I meant.
If you want to watch the game, it's everywhere. You don't have to pay for NFL coverage at all.
Even if you don't want to watch the game.
Well, I mean,
everywhere.
that's true.
That's true.
That's very true.
This is the most pervasive sport in on our continent, at least, and it's worldwide at this point. There's nothing you can do to stop from seeing NFL coverage somewhere. And there are things the NFL should be able to do to stop people from rebroadcasting it without their consent. It's fine.
Right.
People shouldn't be able to create any kind of spin of NFL footage that they like without the NFL's consent. That's just bad. That's bad for business.
I thought it was very interesting that they really went out of the way, though, to make GIFs part of the discussion. So last week we had started a new segment here that we're calling the Nerd Translator. Theme to come.
Beep, boop, beep. Translator.
I'm turning to Brian to help us out with some nerd translation, because there are a couple terms that comic book fans have that are pretty much impossible to explain to casual fans. And maybe Brian can lend some light into this and kind of help us break through and get into the comic world.
Why you gotta put me on the spot like that, bro?
So, Brian, we're not going to get into all of them, but I was wondering if you could hit us with a few things and kind of explain them, a little translate it to the world. The first one is something that my own wife had a hard time figuring out when it came to X-Men Days of Futures Past and Avengers Age of Ultron, and that is shared rights to characters. Because there's Quicksilver in both movies, but it's entirely different, but it's the same character? How does this work?
Do you want him to get into the comic book world or the ridiculously unexplainable cinematic universe?
Yes.
Yep. Take it from there, Bri.
Take it from there. Okay. I mean, this isn't really that difficult to figure out. I'm sorry, Jenny, if I just insulted you, but you never listened to this, so whatever. Really, I mean, both the character of Quicksilver is owned by Marvel, but way back when Marvel didn't have a studio, pre-2008, they went ahead and they sold their rights to movie studios to make movies, like the X-Men movies and the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies and the first Fantastic Four movies, et cetera, et cetera. Because of this, Marvel owns the right to the character of Quicksilver, but they do not own the right to mutants, because they sold that when they sold the X-Men franchise to Fox. So really, that just really gives us two versions of the same character. One in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and one in Fox's X-Men universe.
So then you brought up the other part that I get tripped up on is there's Inhumans and mutants. What the hell is the difference?
The difference between Inhumans and mutants, again, I love the movies and the television shows, but they've also kind of screwed things up in this regard, because in the Marvel television universe, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has been very big about Inhumans being people born with special gifts that get unlocked after a certain time frame, and that sounds an awful lot like mutants. And in the comic book universe, that is exactly what mutants are. And Inhumans are a little bit different in the ways that they're more of not a separate race, but a separate like society. And they get their powers from a thing called the Terrigen Mist, which is really just like kind of a chemical or a catalyst that these people undergo to gain their powers. Because Marvel, the studio, does not own the rights to mutants, they decided to take that and make the Inhumans their version of mutants, essentially.
So, okay.
Yeah, it's really convoluted. I know that much. I'm sorry.
And it's convoluted because they've made it convoluted through movies and television. It wasn't, I didn't feel like it was convoluted in the books.
It's not.
Right. So Inhumans, we know, are a whole different thing. I guess what I really like about what DC has done in television is the sort of, they've really proliferated the term metahumans, and I'm much more comfortable with that than Inhumans. So in light of the nerd translation and sort of comic book and television and movie discussion, how do you feel like we know the term Inhumans, and that's kind of what they've used and assigned to it. But if we're looking at mutants, which is what Paramount is using, right?
Fox. But
Fox. Okay, Fox. And then we have Marvel using whatever they're using. It's going to be Inhumans. And then DC using metahumans. Where do you feel the most comfortable? with how they've handled it and the overall sort of feel of it.
I think DC's done a better job at describing that distinction because metahumans in their universe are people who an accident has happened or some extra force has caused them to have their powers. Marvel hasn't been very clear about that issue. I would in this case I would equate in the cinematic and television universe, Inhumans are more like metahumans.
Yep.
And mutants are born that way from the start.
I agree with you 100%. 100%.
Woo!
To fully round out the nerd translator and really boil this down to just common sense words, would you call Spider-Man a metahuman?
Yes.
So Wolverine is not a metahuman.
Correct.
Gotcha. Wolverine is an inhuman?
Wolverine is a mutant.
Okay.
Mutant. Right.
Good.
Born that way from the start.
Metahuman and inhuman, Brian and I both agree are interchangeable, but that inhuman in the cinematic universe is misused. It's not that way in the books.
All right, Brian. I want to say thank you, Brian, for helping me with some nerd translations and getting some of these terms down at a little more easy to understand and helping the nerd world grow. Look at you. You're like the more you know of nerd.
The more you know.
So, Brian, now that we've done some nerd translation, I think it's time to move on to your second favorite topic. I think it's time for Cape Talk.
Cape Talk.
So, Brian, we had talked about Return of the Capes Crusaders, which is going to lend some classic voices to an animated Batman series, and they just announced that William Shatner will be voicing Two-Face in this series. But Two-Face wasn't in the 66 Batman, right?
No, he wasn't.
Okay, just want to make sure I
There's
didn't
nothing wrong
miss
with that.
something.
I'm okay with him in this though.
I'm okay with Two-Face in this. I just don't know. How do I feel about Shatner as Two-Face?
You know what? I know we're doing Cape Talk, so I'm and this isn't Cape Talk, but you said Shatner, and that made me think Star Trek. So I'm going to say this. The two of you described Star Trek Beyond as just any sci-fi movie. And having never watched a single episode of Star Trek on television, I watched Star Trek Beyond as just any sci-fi movie, and I felt like it was more Star Trek maybe than anything before it. So I went back and I watched a few episodes, and it was very much in Star Trek's original spirit, and so much so that, Chris Pine made that gag about life feeling very episodic. I know this is Cape Talk. I don't give a shit, CJ.
I'm not objecting to the fact we're talking about this.
I've watched this movie. It came out, I got the pre-order, so, maybe a Friday or two ago. I've watched it 4 times in the past couple weeks. I love it. I like it better than the previous 2. It felt more fun. It felt more real, I guess, than just this crazy box office blockbuster sort of thing. It felt like something that you might see, on Netflix. It was exciting and it was fresh and it was new and it was unlike anything I'd seen before. So
I do want to flip-flop a little bit because I've watched it again since, and I agree with Josh.
I haven't watched it
upon
since.
second viewing, it definitely felt more Star Trek than the JJ.
Yeah, and I didn't know Star Trek at all, but I know the stereotype, right? And I know the jokes everyone makes. So I guess I was watching the movie without ever seeing it and going, this kind of feels like everything everyone told me about, right? And then I go back and I watch a couple old episodes and I'm like, holy crap, this movie is exactly like these episodes. It's crazy how much it is like the old show. And I felt really good about it all of a sudden. Like it could go a whole, like it wasn't, here's the thing. The original 2 blockbusters felt like they were building to a big conclusion, right? Like they were going to end. And it feels to me like the way they've reshaped it, this could go on forever, episodically.
Well, good. Then I'm glad that it gives more opportunity for more movies to be made about it then. And
Number 4's been greenlit already.
yay. So
Brian, do you feel like I do about it? Like he could go on forever?
I do now. I had to do a second viewing of it. In my defense, I saw it in San Diego, and I was in Comic-Con fever. I wasn't really, that invested in it.
No, sure. I at this point, I'm giddy. I'm giddy just to watch Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto grow old together. I really am. Like, I'm in love with this cast, and especially Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto. I'm just.
I do like those two. I do like them.
Cemented in my mind now as Kirk and Spock. So I'm sure there are some purists listening to the podcast and cursing my name right now. I'm sorry. I really am. I am sorry. But I thought that it was done so well that now these guys are the characters.
I don't think you have to be sorry, and this is why watching that movie made you go back and watch the show. And I think if anyone is a true Star Trek fan, they would be rejoicing to hear that you actually put forth the effort to go watch the show after watching the movie. That should be a victory for anyone who's a Star Trek fan. So I don't think they should be yelling at you at all. They should be thankful that you had that thought.
Well, you're welcome, everyone. I'm so sorry for derailing. I'm so sorry for derailing.
No, approved derailment. Way to go.
Speaking of approved derailments, you finally watched the first 2 episodes of Flash.
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness.
This is
2 seconds.
We're good. Okay.
I want to talk about this for 2 seconds.
I watched the first 2 episodes of Flash. So I was stuck in a hotel room where there was no FS1, which means I couldn't watch playoff baseball. So I was really angry in that kind of way, angry and sad. So I went back to CWTV.com based on CJ's recommendation that the CW app would have it. I watched the first 2 episodes of Flash, and then the next day the first 2 episodes of Arrow. I was texting Brian throughout the episode of Flash. The first thing was, why is this happening? I don't understand. And he says, keep watching. And then, no more than 10 minutes later, I mean, just the episode is so good. My text was, holy shit, this episode is amazing. And it really was. It was maybe the best episode of comic book television I've ever seen, was this Flash episode 1.
Right? So I have a question for you, because you texted me, you're like, I don't know about this. I told you to keep watching. And then like literally 10 minutes later, you're like, holy shit, this episode's amazing.
Right.
What part of the episode did that hit for you?
It was when the story started getting explained, but it was Barry's optimism. It was his inability to just let things transpire, right? He had to fix it. And it was really the whole thing that was happening with him that drew me in. The action was unbelievable. I was completely enthralled by the story, the whole story.
I think I was at the moment where Brian was, which was the moment where Reverse Flash says, you are going to come back here and beg me to kill your mom. I'm sitting there just going, oh, you son of a bitch.
Good. Oh. So I knew this was going to be awesome just because I know things about stuff.
As we just demonstrated in the Nerd Translator.
I know so much about the Flash universe. It's kind of sickening. And
I know there was Can we get Brian drunk and get him a Flash tattoo? How has that not happened within all your 30 years of life?
I approve of that. All of that. Anyway, but like I knew this was going to be different. I knew they were going to go a different route than the comic book because obviously there's things they can't do because of licensing issues and all this other stuff. But the fact that just like you said, Josh, Barry is so happy. He's optimistic. He's sitting there having breakfast with his parents, who are all like, hey, he's just happy to be there. He's just happy to see them both. And the funny thing is they're all like, you should really move out. Like, you're how old now?
But he's committed. He was committed to living that life, right?
And the life that he never had.
The life that he never had. He had the Reverse Flash captured. It wasn't like it was when everything's going right and things start heating up and Barry starts interacting as the Flash, right? Saving Kid Flash. And I was floored by the episode. I don't think I could have imagined an episode of the Flash having that many moving parts, but being totally workable, which they did brilliantly. I mean, Brian, I counted 5 storylines in there.
Yeah, something like that. And
Right?
it's just, now that he's back from the Flashpoint timeline and little things are different here and there, and like, he's going to slowly have to figure out how things are different and how he has to deal with that. He can't just go back and hit reset, because he needs to own what he did and kind of live with those mistakes. So good. It again, like you said, Josh, probably one of the best, definitely the best superhero premieres I've seen
on
ever.
TV, right? Ever.
Absolutely.
And they captured, the thing is, my criticism of the Flash last season was that it wasn't in any way serious or, dark and gritty, like we've said, right? My criticism was, and the reason I stated that I like Arrow more is because it's darker. It seems more ominous. It keeps me thinking. And this episode captured all of that sort of, all that crazy, like, Bruce Wayne guilt and obsession, and combined it with Barry Allen's natural optimism, right? I mean, at least that's the way it felt to me. Like, he was actually under this heavy weight, like all of the comic book heroes we've grown up with, under this crushing weight, but still doing what he does for everyone around him.
Right. And he just feels this moral obligation to help, even though there's a Kid Flash there. And, he's doing his thing. He still feels like he needs to get involved. And that's when things start going south and he realizes he can't stay in that timeline anymore. He needs to go back.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the Kid Flash thing, he realizes Wally's unpreparedness, right? He sees what's happening, so he obviously has to help. Then he gets Cisco involved in that world, right, in that timeline, and that's cool. I guess my big problem with the whole thing is that in all of this, like, Cisco's the big loser. Like, why did Cisco take that giant emotional burden that really nobody else got, right? In that timeline, and seemingly never recovered.
I think, I have ideas. I think, from a viewer standpoint, it's really jarring to see that character who for 2 seasons has been happy-go-lucky, nicknaming all the villains and, very much like kind of into this life, and then seeing what this life now has taken from him and the toll that takes on one of the most positive characters and positive forces in that show. It's really cool dynamic to see. And the fact that Barry just can't deal with it. And like, that's probably the one thing out of everything that's changed that he wishes he could fix and wishes he could turn back time and fix and reset, but he can't. Because the more he does it, the more he screws things up.
I think I agree with you, and I think that, well, I'll say I'm excited to see how it develops. This show, it handled each character so well. I was curious to your thoughts, obviously, about Cisco, and really what they've done with this story arc is basically elevated him into the second most important role, right?
Yeah.
In the show. At least that's how I feel about it, especially
I'd agree.
with the scene with him having powers and things like that. And so they're building that up for Barry to develop him. But I also want to talk a bit about Arrow's first 2 episodes.
Go for it.
I know what I thought. I'd like to hear initial thoughts from you.
I really enjoyed these first 2 episodes. I think it's a good jumping off point from the fact that I wasn't crazy about season 4. I think this has got a different tone, a better tone a little bit. I'm not crazy about Ollie going back to killing people again. I thought we kind of went past that in his character development, but it is going to be interesting to see where the story develops from here.
Yeah, I think that, him going back to killing people, and that happened, very early, obviously. But he also explained it very early in saying that because he wasn't willing to, quote unquote, pull the trigger, and obviously he's firing arrows, but whatever. Because he wasn't willing to pull the trigger on Damien Dark, Laurel Lance died. He's not going to make that mistake again. I think that his justification is warranted, but will probably be tempered over time and as he comes sort of down to earth from the loss of the Black Canary.
Do you feel that's just rehashing though some of the previous arc from?
No, I don't actually. I think that he started out that way out of necessity, and when he came to trust people, he found again, same sort of Bruce Wayne story, right? You don't need to kill to bring people to justice, so he does that. But his actions, and if you parallel it to the Batman story. Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but after Robin died, Batman was more violent than he had ever been, ever. And to the point of where he was very nearly killing quite a few people in different situations.
He almost killed the Joker in the very next issue.
Right. So it wasn't like a CJ, it's not a repeat of an arc. It's a new revelation where he's just tempering he's just finding a new balance.
The reason I ask is I fell out of love with Arrow last season. I just that season just dragged for me.
Did you watch these 2 episodes?
I did not, only because I didn't finish last season.
All right. Well,
so I'm asking, is it worth me going through a season that I'm not enjoying to watch these 2 episodes?
I don't know why you didn't finish the last season to begin with. Enjoy it or don't enjoy it. It's part of. You can't watch Flash without knowing what's going on with Arrow. You can't possibly watch these shows independently.
But I have been, and everything's been okay.
You can't. Brian, can you before my head explodes?
I do agree with Josh. Especially these seasons that are airing now are going to be tied very much together.
4 different shows, 4-part crossover. How the fuck could you watch one and not
be
watch
watching
all?
them all?
Well, so then in that case, I will go through season 4 and finish it, and then
I want to ask Josh
season 5
real quick. How do you feel about the new recruits after these first 2 episodes?
I really like it. Is Clifton Collins? Is that the guy's? No, not Clifton Collins. What's that guy's name?
Who's playing who?
Wild Dog.
Rick Gonzalez.
As far as the recruits go, I especially like the addition of Rick Gonzalez. The guy has been in a ton of movies and other shows, but he's a credible actor, and I like him in the role. Now, I also like the very quick turnaround, 2-episode turnaround in the beginning of the training and then sort of the realization of what actually needs to happen. It happened very quickly. There was a quick arc. Obviously, we see strengths, we see weaknesses. I like everything. I'm not crazy about, and I can't even at this point remember the guy's name because he's not important. The guy that started as Felicity's assistant.
Oh, yeah. You mean Curtis?
Curtis.
Played by Echo Kellum, but Curtis Holt.
Curtis Holt. He's the one that I'm least impressed with.
He's the one I'm most excited for.
Excited for, maybe. I want to see what he can do, but to this point, he's done nothing.
Right, but he has a big stake. Being as in the first episode, he got jumped and he's got this personal need to prove himself. B, in the comic books, he becomes a pretty badass character, so I want to see if they kind of take that route with him and make him go the Mr. Terrific route. We'll see.
I agree, and I'm excited about it, but to this point, I'm disappointed with the character.
Okay.
So we'll see. But overall, I really liked the first 2 episodes of Arrow. I loved the first 2 episodes of Flash. I'm excited to see what this year brings.
So let's round out our Cape talk with our conversation about Luke Cage. We can finally talk about the last 7 episodes in the series as a whole. So we can go ahead and get that. This will obviously be riddled with spoilers. So if you haven't caught up with all of Marvel's Luke Cage, go pause this, watch it, and get your ass back over here, because this show is pretty interesting. I'm really.
So CJ, do you need to pause real quick and go finish Luke Cage?
It, you
Okay,
bastard.
making sure.
Yeah, I finished it. So I'm really curious to hear your take on the series as a whole and the last couple final episodes. What did you guys think about it? Because the last thing we talked about was Cottonmouth being, arrested, and then here he is, pulverized to a pulp with a mic stand.
Yeah, he dies pretty much in the next episode that you didn't watch
very
last
next
week.
Episode.
Again, just when I thought Cottonmouth was getting stale, they made him interesting, and then they killed him.
Yep.
It was that quick, and you kind of see the shift turn from Cottonmouth to Shades and Mariah and Diamondback, and kind of the connection between Diamondback and Luke, being as they grew up together and they were best friends growing up and half brothers. I thought this entire series was great. I especially like some of the overarching themes that they put in here about, just doing what's right and that type of thing. And I don't know. I really highly enjoyed it. And the last fight scene between him and Diamondback in the streets of Harlem was pretty fantastic.
So I want to talk about that, because I had a fan of this show talk to us about the Diamondback's costume being low budget and really kind of offensive to him. Is that more true to what he wears in the comics?
Who, Diamondback?
Yes.
That is like exactly what he wears in the comics.
Okay, so it's more of a callback to that than it is to translating it over to like what he would be wearing nowadays, right?
No, that's like his exact costume. Here, in fact, I'll pull it up for you.
I don't.
Too late, it's happening.
Josh, what about you? What did you feel about this series wrapping up?
Look at it, CJ. Look at it and comment on it.
I agree, it does. The fan was offended by the lack of quality.
Either you like it, you don't like it. I was fine with the costumes. I was fine with the way it played out. I thought was brilliant. I was very pleased with the entire series. I said it before, I'll say it again. I thought it was far better than Jessica Jones. It was just more entertaining for me. There wasn't an episode, not one episode of these 13 that I was kind of like, meh, I could take it or leave it. I thought all of them were very good. Again, I especially like the way they wove music and theatrics into each episode. The characters were great. I was fine with Cottonmouth getting his head bashed in with a mic stand. And overall, I thought the climax was unbelievable. I thought that the last couple episodes were so packed with action, they would rival any last couple episodes in any show you'd want to watch on television.
And it's funny that you brought up, Jessica Jones, and people will like it because there's they ran the numbers, right, of the most top 20 original Netflix series Netflix series within the first 5 days of them dropping, and Luke Cage got number 5 on that list, and then Jessica Jones is at number 8, and there's
Top
about
5 Netflix originals.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So
Okay.
Fuller House is number 1.
Makes sense to me.
Fuller House is number 1. Orange is the New Black is
Fuller
number 2.
House is number 1.
Yep. There is 8.
Listen, guys, I am a huge fan of Stephanie Taylor too. I think she's amazing now that she's grown up. But seriously, no.
So it's Fuller House, Orange is the New Black, Daredevil, Stranger Things that we're talking about on the Hey Did You See? Shameless plug, Luke Cage, House of Cards, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, and then Jessica Jones.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
So there are like 700,000 more people watching Luke Cage than Jessica Jones on the in the first 5 days.
Makes perfect sense to me. Jessica Jones it was a good show, but an acquired taste. Like if you're not a comic book fan, you're probably not going to watch that. And Luke Cage, in my opinion, you can watch that whether or not you're a fan.
Right. And more of the, no, I'm not a hero and that part, I'm just an everyman kind of thing.
Yeah,
It
like
really
any
speaks to
Steven
people.
Seagal movie you've ever watched. Ever.
Yeah.
Under Siege 1, 2, and Hard to Kill.
Brian, doesn't it
All in
feel
one
that
shot.
way? Doesn't it feel that way?
Now that you say it, it does. Thank you, gosh.
I mean, that's
I
the way it
can't watch
felt to
Luke
me.
Cage the same way ever again.
It felt to me like a Bruce Willis or Steven Seagal flick, right?
Right.
Like it's just a good guy doing the right thing for the right reasons. It felt that way to me. And that's, in my mind, it's Steven Seagal and Bruce Willis.
There was only one character that I didn't. Maybe I just don't understand it. Maybe I need to watch it again to fully appreciate the character. But
You
don't.
might be about to get yelled at.
I
Go
don't like
ahead.
Mariah.
You don't like Mariah?
Yeah, I don't like her arc.
And,
I don't.
And she, I thought, was played the character brilliantly.
Yeah, I
very
just
well.
thought she was a bad character. I thought she was poorly written.
No, I disagree. I think just as Luke Cage doesn't want to get thrown into the hero role, she doesn't necessarily want to get thrown into the villain role. She's just always kind of stayed on
Well,
the outskirts until she's kind of manipulated into it.
She wants power, but doesn't want to be a villain about it.
Right.
Right?
But eventually, she turns out-
She does crave power and she does crave notoriety, but she doesn't want to be a bad person. And when her past forces her into that role via a trigger, albeit justifiable,
Absolutely.
right? But, and repressed, but nonetheless, she executed on it. She becomes a villain, doesn't like it, ends up trying to make it right. All bad.
Right.
But I thought, all in all, the character had a solid arc, and Viola Davis
It wasn't
did a great job.
Viola Davis.
It was someone else.
Alfred
Oh,
Woodward.
Shit.
It's not Viola Davis.
It's Alfred. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You're fine.
Anyway, I understand where she went. I'm just not. I wasn't bought into her. I mean, listen, out of everything I have to with that show, the fact saying, "Oh, I only half like the Mariah story arc." I mean, that's fantastic. I had bigger problems with Jessica Jones and other shows too. That I'm okay with this. I enjoyed watching it a lot. I really think that this is a show that you don't, just like we just discussed, you don't have to be a comic book fan to like, appreciate, or tell others to watch. I think this is a great everyman story, and I think it has enough for everybody in there.
I think, and CJ, if we have to cut this, you freaking cut it. But I think the show did a really good job of being entertaining while still kind of addressing some pretty serious issues. And the biggest thing that I can think of is when Luke is held up in the club and the cops are literally having this like philosophical debate out front because they have these bullets. And the big debate is, well, the moment we roll these bullets out to everybody, the gangs are going to get them.
Right, his history.
And like the escalation issue that happens every day. I thought that was handled great. And obviously there's some like other overarching themes that I don't want to talk about. But I thought they did a good job of being respectful and treating it
And tactfully.
Treating it the way it should be, and kind of representing, both sides of the argument or both points of view.
You're absolutely right.
But handling it in an
absolutely
entertaining way.
Yeah, and it's a discussion that no one wants to get into any day at any time. And this show managed to represent everyone's point of view without being obnoxious. Did it tastefully, did it tactfully, and then gave you a kick-ass ending.
Right.
On top of it. So I'm thrilled, and again I'll stand by. Wow. I'll stand by my original this is better than Jessica Jones argument, because I do feel that way, and I do feel like it'll be more well received, and can't wait to see how it ties into Iron Fist and the Defenders.
I'll say this. I honestly believe that if you put Luke Cage on HBO, I don't think you would get the execution on those tougher issues that you got out of Netflix and Marvel. So I think the way that they handled a lot
It's a ballsy statement, and probably someone at HBO right now is going, challenge accepted.
So anyway, I think it's important that they handled it well, and a lot of people that I talked to about the show said that they handled it well. So that's good for everybody, and I'm glad that it was handled correctly.
So I do want to say one thing about the end, the ending, not just the Diamondback fight, which I thought was very entertaining, but that whole scene, him being in the police station and talking to Misty and being like, well, this is why I did it. This is what Pop stood for, moving forward and, being a better person. And then the marshals just coming to take him away and him being like, all right, I've run long enough. This is what I got to do. I have to serve my sentence, and kind of go from there. I mean, what a great way to kind of cap off that show about, morality and like some of the bigger issues behind it.
Yep.
And what makes a moral person, and to have your main character then have to go back to jail because he's technically a wanted man, even though he didn't commit the crime he was accused of.
And I love the line that sometimes we have to go backwards to go forwards. And it really
makes me feel really a lot better about constantly going backwards in my life.
It's not that bad. You ended in a palatial estate. I mean, is it really that bad?
Right. And every so often when you go backwards in Brian's palatial estate, you do step on a cat, but not many cats. It's a very small ratio of cat to males. Very low.
Couldn't go one episode. Couldn't happen. Okay. I was being serious.
I know.
I was being all somber and being like, what a great way to cap off this morality tale. And you all had to talk about palatial estates.
At least it wasn't a dick or a fart joke. That's good for us.
Oh, you mean like Josh's Fantastic Beast?
Oh, you went lowbrow again. This has made me really excited to not only see Iron Fist, but I cannot wait for Defenders. I mean, this has got me so pumped for seeing all of these stories come together and seeing the bigger picture. I cannot wait. Can I please has now? Can I please has now?
I got to tell you, the thing that this did for me was get me more excited about the next seasons of Daredevil and, hopefully Jessica Jones. I hope they do it again because it just gives me an extra thing to do for 13 hours, which is nice. But Defenders, I'm still on pause about because it's far away. I saw the trailer for Iron Fist. Looks fantastic.
Oh, so excited for Iron Fist.
It looks very good. Very excited for it. But this made me more excited for the next season of Daredevil, and I can't wait because we can only be a few months away.
Well, Iron Fist is in March of 2017, and Defenders is in September. They have not announced when season 3 of Daredevil is happening.
I don't want to hear that from you, Brian. I want to hear.
They also started filming the Netflix Punisher series, and they have not announced when that's happening yet.
Right.
All of this has to happen right now.
Yep, that's what I want. I want right now.
I'll write a letter to Netflix.
So I want to end with just your favorite moment from Luke Cage. What was a standout moment for you in this series?
Who first?
I have to think. Hang on.
I know.
It's been 2 weeks since I've seen the show. I
have mine.
Go ahead, Josh.
Mine is will always be, will never change. The opening of episode 5, Cottonmouth standing in the loft, watching Jidenna's performance and outlining his entire character. That is my favorite moment of the entire show.
Mine was the Rosario Dawson Night Nurse line that sometimes you just got to throw science out the window and just go with what you know. Because that kind of feels like the show sometimes. We have a total way to do something, and then we just say, screw it, we'll do it our own way. And you rough it, and you make your own path out of things. Even when when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade kind of thing. Oh, how about Method Man's bulletproof love, was it? Or bulletproof life?
Yeah, no, it was
Are you
good.
suggesting that as a moment for me? Because
not you.
No, it was a really
CJ,
I very much appreciated that, but not as much as the parallel of the performance with the character.
No, I agree.
That was my favorite moment. Stop trying to change my mind.
I'm not trying to change your moment. I'm just saying that was a good moment. Maybe I'll use that instead. All right.
I have my moment.
Oh, go ahead, Brian. Go ahead. You have your moment now.
Okay. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, this is all staying on the podcast, including this part right here. Okay, let's go.
probably my favorite moment of the series, besides that speech Luke gives at the end, is the scene at Pop's funeral, where Cottonmouth goes up there and is all like man of the people, trying to be all his wolf in sheep's clothing. And then Luke Cage goes up there and does this awesome speech and pretty much just says "suck it, Cottonmouth." I thought that was great.
I'm going to go with Method Man's "Bulletproof Love," and that song, and seeing what the community was doing to rally around Luke Cage, saying there's more people out there rooting for you than you know, and just seeing the community come together. It was a nice. I mean, it was great.
Yeah, so you took my music thing and turned it into a good thing.
You have a great thing.
No, but mine is villainous and yours is a good thing, which makes you superior.
No, it doesn't make me superior.
I see what you did, CJ.
Your villainous thing
I don't like it.
is badass. Mine is just like, oh,
realize
that's cool.
just to connect these universes even more. You realized that scene where Luke Cage is running through the park.
Yes. It's Trish
That's
talk.
Trish from Jessica Jones.
Yes.
That's her radio show.
Yes.
Okay, just making sure.
I am like
an
an old person and watch it with closed captioning on, and it says Trish, and I was like, "Oh, that's from Jessica Jones," and I picked it up really quick.
Congratulations, old man.
I watch TV with closed captioning on. All right, well, that is your nerdy news for the week.
Sports.
You all right? We obviously want to hear what you have to say about Luke Cage, some of the topics that we talked about, or if you ever have something that you want us to talk about, we want to hear from you. You can email us at podcast@thatkindofnerd.com, or Brian has no cats in his palatial estate. Well, just a few, but not a whole lot. It's okay. The cat to mother ratio is very low at thatkindofnerd.com.
That is a ridiculous email address. Please don't type all that in.
So please go ahead and email us with thoughts and suggestions. If you need something translated for our nerdy translator, please let us know. You can also find us on social media. Just search That Kind of Nerd. Thank you so much for making us your walk around your neighborhood or your drive to work, and we will see you guys next week. I saw somewhere when I was looking at one of the feeds that we actually have 83 posted episodes, but that doesn't include like some of the ones that aren't numbered.
Okay. Like I told my wife, pick a date. It could be
I am saying 77.
it could be our wedding anniversary or the anniversary of our first date. It can't be both. Right? So
But Josh, I want to feel special on both days.
what we're gonna do is we're gonna honor the episode number 77. We're gonna go ahead and just honor that.
Hang on, there's not an anniversary for the first kiss.
There's not
as
gonna
well
be-
as
What about the fact that we did like a cold open and we waited 2 weeks before we made it like public to the world? So do we start the anniversary of doing it for 1 year on that date, or the date that we
gotta
first
tell
published
you,
it?
bro, if I could disavow a few of those early episodes, I would. So
what about the show that I wasn't recording the entire time?
Oh God, the lost
That's
episode.
official.
no, we
start.
lost a whole one because my audio was missing as well.
And then we had that one where I was drunk and it totally unintelligible.
But again, we're just gonna go by the current episode number, which is 77 is where we're at. There's not any other dates. This is the one.
All right, that's some standard material right there.
So I'm really happy to be doing this 86 times with you guys.